Okay, so I have to ask you guys a question. My question is, when you have dreams, this is a question for spiritual people, people who acknowledge that they have gifts, not people who don't believe in this type of thing. So, my question is, when you have dreams of someone or visions of someone dying, what do you do? Because for me, when Wayne told me that he joined the Crips gang, okay, let me just go back a little bit. Okay, I'm going back to the first vision that I ever got in my life. And this is when I was a freshman in high school, so I was like 15. And my boyfriend, Wayne Savage, um, they call him Wayne Weezy, the capo. We lived in Georgia King Village, and I went to St. Vincent High School, which is a private all girls school. And like when I got home from school, he called my house phone, told me to come outside. So I came outside, and he was in a public school. He was in Weekway High School. So it was really far from my school. My school was right across the street, so I used to walk. Nevertheless, I was just talking about the distance and how fast he got back home, basically. He lived right across from me in another townhouse. So he came to my door and told me that he had something to tell me. So I'm like, what? What's up? What happened? And so he was like, I just joined Grape Street. So he was all smiling and excited. And me, I was like, basically, first of all, my first reaction was, and you're fucking happy. And then the second thought that came to my mind was not a thought, it was a vision. And in that vision, I saw him sitting in a car with dreads down to here. Mind you, at the time he had a short haircut, but he had dreads like down to here. And no, wait, down to here. Yeah, because now I can see the camera. So yeah, he had dreads down to here. And he was sitting in a car and it was dark outside. And he was listening to music. And what he was doing was, well, he had his window a little bit cracked, not all the way down, but just a little bit to where he could see out and talk out and shit. And he took his hand and put it up by the radio and was changing the CD. So he changed the CD, and then somebody shot him in the neck. Now, I don't know how many shots were, you know, I don't know how many shots they did, but I know that I seen a person coming up from his left, which is him being in the driver's seat. They was coming from this side, running up to him from the McDonald's gate. We had a gate around our complex over by McDonald's, but people will always do something to the gate to where as though you could get through the gate without having to walk all the way around. So it would like be stretched out or something like that. So somebody came from there, ran over to him, and they shot him in the neck. And he died. So what I said to him was, you're going to fucking die. Like, I had no control over, I didn't even think about it before I said it. I had no control over my reaction to what I just saw. And I had no thoughts in my head about lay it on him easy. I didn't have those thoughts, like, because I cared about him so much. It just was like word vomit. It's like, you're gonna fucking die. And he like, what? I'm like, yo, you're gonna fucking die. He like, no, I'm not. I'm like start boasting about his selfish shit. And I was like, get the fuck out of my face. And I walked off, went in the house. The next day I went to school. He was sitting on his porch, so I guess he wasn't leaving out for school yet. Cause my school, it's kind of hard to explain, but his school and my school, like we could take the same direction, but we would have to split off. And I usually would walk to school with him and his cousin aunt. But yeah, so he was on his porch. He wasn't leaving out for school yet, and I walked up the row to leave out the complex, and he used to. And well, the first day I did that, he thought I was going to speak to him, and I didn't say nothing. I kept walking. So then he was like, Whitney. And I'm like, ignoring him. So he called me again. I ignored him, kept walking. And then he like, stupid ass bitch. I was like, you know what? I stopped at first and I was going to turn around and curse him the fuck out. But I was like, nah, he trying to get your attention, bitch. Keep moving. So I was like, all right. So I started walking again. He like, that's why I'm fuck with you now, bitch. Like, just kept going off with the bitches and shit. So, that was how that went. And so basically, like, not too long after that, I think it was like maybe that summer or something like that. He got locked up. I didn't know what he got locked up for until he got out because I never really asked. Like, I wasn't really interested. Um, you know, I I wanted to talk to him, but I didn't want to talk to him because he chose what he wanted to do and he didn't listen to me. So if there's no communication, then there's no relationship. So I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to find out where he was locked up at. I didn't want to visit him. None of that. So my senior year, I went away to college. I came back, um, had a son, and I spent a year in college and came back, and then basically he had got out of jail. Well, I spent some time in college. I'm not gonna say it was a year. It wasn't that long at all. Basically, I had my son after a year after going to college. But yeah, that's another story. I had a stalker ass boyfriend who didn't care that I was all the way in Georgia from Jersey, and he would pop up down there. So that's how I ended up getting pregnant. Trying to prove that I wasn't fucking with nobody. Yeah, so 19-year-old decisions. But at the end of the day, I love my baby. We 19 years apart, and he is amazing. But when I came back and I had my son, I had an apartment. I had the apartment that we grew up in. My mother gave me that apartment in her Section 8, and then I um I was holding that house down, and she went and bought a house in East Orange in a nice little area. So one of my friends came up. Her name's Sha. She came to my door one day. I think my son was like 7 months or something, and she came to my door and was like, Wayne, Wayne is at my house. He's sitting on the porch by my house. He want to see you. So I'm like, wait, bitch, what are you talking about? My baby dad in the house. I just had a son. You talking about Wayne? So she was like, he not listening to me. He want to see you. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go and see what's up. I'm about to go tell my son's dad that I'm about to leave out real quick. I'll be right back. I'm only going around the corner. Not really a corner because it's a complex of townhouses and shit. So I'm just going up the row, like 2 rows up. So I went and he was sitting on the fucking wall of, like, she lived in a townhouse that had like these back steps that was really high, like 15 steps or something like that. And so when I looked up, she like, look, there you go. Cause I really didn't believe her, but I wanted to go just because it seemed to me like, you know how your friend be on some shit like they be just trying to get you to come here so they could tell you something or something. Like I didn't think it was about him for real. I thought this bitch wanted to really talk to me or something, and she knew like my baby dad be on some shit where he don't be wanting me to go nowhere and shit like that. Red flag I should have seen before, but I didn't. I thought that was normal. Um, yeah, so I seen him sitting on the wall. Well, I seen a dude sitting on the wall, did not know it was him, and walked up the stairs and he had dreads that was like up to here, right? So I was like, oh hey. I didn't think about the vision that I had when I saw him. I was just happy to see him. And being that I was happy to see him, the vision didn't pop into my mind. So I was like, what's up? You know? And he all talking to me and shit. I don't remember really like he just basically was saying like, hi, how you doing? I just got out or whatever. And I was like, yeah, well, I just had a son. Like, I just had a son. So he like, you had a son? You a mom? I'm like, yeah. So he like, damn. I'm like, what? He like, he basically was like shocked that I had a kid or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it's a boy. He like, what's his name and shit? So we talk about his name, how old he is, like that. And I was like, I gotta get back, but I'm glad that you out. I'm glad you're okay. And I left. So me and my son's father was going through stuff. So that ended in him trying to shoot me. I had to get a restraining order against him. Him breaking into, well, trying to break into my house. My neighbor told me that they seen a dude, described him and everything, trying to get into my house when I broke up with him. So I had to go and get a restraining order. After I got the restraining order, he tried to do a drive-by and shoot me with a gun with an infrared beam on it. I don't know how he got that, but he had that. And at the time, I didn't. When I was with him, I did. He was a Jehovah Witness. Like he wasn't in the streets as far as I knew, but you know, you never really know somebody. You never really know who they friends are or what they do when they're not around you. You only know what's going on with y'all. So those are the things I found out about. And so basically, when all of that happened, I ended up moving to my mom's house in East Orange. And Wayne had got killed in between time. Basically, I think it was when Barack Obama got elected, and everybody was going out to the club that night, and they was celebrating. It was like that weekend or whatever. So he got shot in the car, and my friend Sade came to my house and told me, because it was only one bus, the 34 bus. So you would take one bus and it'll take you up there right on my fucking block. So that was how I found out about that. My reaction to that, to sum it up, was a bunch of tears, crying a lot to the point where I felt like I was drained and I fell asleep and I didn't know I fell asleep. And then I woke up and no, actually, while I was crying, I wrote him a letter. It was 4 pages, but really was 8 pages because it was back and forth, like the front and the back. And then I put it in this book on my mother's bookshelf, um, book bookcase with all of these books. I just grabbed the book and put it in there, folded it in half and put it in there. And I was so fucking tired, so I laid down in her bed, and then I, of course, was still crying, and I ended up falling asleep. when I fell asleep, um, I found myself like in this green pasture, like a bunch of grass, and I was laying down on my back, and then I had set up, and when I set up, I heard his voice, and so I looked up because it sounded like it was coming from the sky. So I looked up, and I saw his face in the clouds with his dreads. His dreads, before he died, his dreads ended up being like this long. So from this long to this long is how long his life was when he got out of jail. Basically, a year and a half, maybe. So he told me that he understands now what I was trying to tell him before. And I can't really remember anything else besides me still being upset that he was gone. But he kept telling me it's not my fault. He like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Like that or whatever. I haven't been able to talk about this. Like I literally cry every time I think about him. Any kind of messages I get spiritually from him, I cry. Like, so